Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's episode of Late Night Q&A with ZodWriter. Tonight, I have a special treat for all of you sci-fi enthusiasts and literary lovers out there. I'm thrilled to introduce a phenomenal author who works very, very hard to captivate his audiences, whether it be through the work he's doing on YouTube or the stuff he's actually published outside of YouTube, although I believe most of his work is available on his YouTube channel. Either way, because he's just so awesome and giving to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure of welcoming Adega Outlaw here for the very first time on Late Night Q&A. He's been around for a while. He's been in and out of my chats. I've definitely been following his stuff for many years now. I'm sure this is going to be a great sci-fi discussion. So without further ado, let me bring Adega on here, man. What's up, Adega? Great to see you.
That was a very nice intro. I don't try to attribute all of those qualities to me, but thank you. And no, most of my stuff is off my YouTube channel. If it's in book form, it's long been removed. But thank you.
Oh well, yeah.
And
all
hello,
your
everyone.
stuff. I can listen to your voice at any time. You have like the most soothing voice when you read your content on your channel. I'm just like, oh God, I'm just gonna delve into this deeply layered sci-fi story right now. I'm gonna chill. It's so good.
It's not ASMR. Sorry, guys.
Oh God, it's such great stuff.
Thank you.
And really, it's like there's so many YouTube channels out there where everybody, everybody does their own thing. People, covering content, talking and doing like me. I like to interview and talk to people and have one-on-one conversations like this one. And it's nice to go and see something where someone is literally sharing their work in such a way that you get the insight. It's like a new sci-fi story every day, because I haven't heard all of your because I haven't heard everything that you've got on your channel, because there's certain stories that I'll get invested in. So I'll go through it and it'll be like, okay, I'm on chapter 11 of this particular story, and then I'll go in and I'm like, well, wait, I'm only on chapter 3 of this story. So I kind of go all over the place with your stories, but they're all very, very unique. And if I could sum up your content in one word, for me, it would be atmospheric. And I don't know if you think that's a good word to describe your content, but I'm just speaking from my perspective.
I'll take it. If I've left a positive influence on anybody, then it's good. I'm happy. That's all there is to it. But no, thanks. And my YouTube channel is just for editing purposes, to be honest with you, because I write stuff, and then later on down the line, after I've done editing, I'll put it on there just for me to hear it, and anyone else wants to hear it, that's great. And then I could say, well, the pacing's off, or this needs to be worded, and I go back and I fix it in the chapter, and when the book's done and I got the copyright and everything, I pull it off and put it out on print.
Yeah, and I noticed that currently your newest available stuff in print is your Evolution trilogy. Am I correct?
Evolution's actually 5 books.
Evolution. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but they're all there. I guess the main story, I'll give it to you. The main story is basically 3 books.
Those 3 books.
Prologue, and then there's a kind of an epilogue book to it. But yeah, so yeah, I'll let you slide on that one.
Okay, so what was your whole thought process behind that? Because I remember, and because I've been following your channel for a long time, and I think I remember listening to Evolution. And so I didn't know if maybe it was one of those things, because you had said when you get ready to put it on paper, then it's not on your YouTube channel.
Right. So that was 7 years ago. Were you listening to it that long ago?
I remember the content. I'm just wondering if maybe it was like, and I gotta ask you, like, have you ever thought about like doing these because you put them in audio form anyway on your channel?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought of compiling all that and just putting an audio book out and
I
just
have all the files, strict audio, and there's a friend of mine who says he wants to do that, but I've just never given it to him. It's not a matter of not wanting to, because he says he can edit it and fix things. My early stuff was, it's like anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. My early stuff is pretty bad. It's just my pacing, the way I read. It's not that I read words wrong or poorly. It's very boring reading. I became more and more animated later on, but it's other people have mentioned the same thing you have. I just haven't. I know a
because
lot of people listen to audiobooks.
I think those would do very, very well. Because for example, I had been talking with a publisher for the book that I'm currently writing.
Mm-hmm.
And the book that I'm writing, I was doing on social media. I'd been putting out random audio clips, and I used like an AI voice to read the clips that I'd written, and I'd post them online on social media. And I had met with this publisher, and they had told me that they were interested in the book, and I was excited because I was like, okay, cool, because I need a publisher, and I wanted it to be put on print. I wasn't as interested in the audio aspect of it as I was the printing aspect of it. And then they basically came right out and told me, well, we heard some of your audio clips on social media, and all we're really interested in doing is making an audio book and putting it on Audible. And they told me that it's because nobody actually reads books anymore. People just listen to stuff when they're at the gym, when they're in a long car ride, when they're walking somewhere, when they go out. Audio books are where it's at, so we just want to make an audio book out of it. And I wasn't really interested in that because I thought to myself, well, I could do that myself. I could just, if I really want to, I could record it, or I could have it, I could just keep using the AI voice that I'm using to put out the clips. I don't have to necessarily, sell it to you and then allow you to control all that. I mean, what's stopping me from putting my book on Audible if I want to do that? I mean, it's just, to me, it's just kind of like there doesn't have to be a middleman. But what you're doing and having it all already there on your YouTube channel anyway, I just was thinking, man, and you have a good voice for it too.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So that's the other thing. Like when you read, it actually conveys all of the things you're trying to convey. Again, like I said, using the word atmospheric to describe your work, your voice is as much of that atmosphere as the stories that you're telling. So,
well, thank you. You give me high praise for someone. I'm very critical of my own voice, and that's why I pull everything down eventually. So, well, we'll see. Maybe someday they'll all be audio. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I've
had a lot of practice. I've been doing this for years. So if it sounds good now, it's because there was a lot of mistakes I made in the past.
Well, do you listen to a lot of audiobooks yourself?
No, none.
No? Okay.
Mm-hmm. I have listened to some, I guess they're radio dramas.
Yeah.
On YouTube where you hear spooky stories, those type of things. I've listened to some of those. So maybe that's similar, but they'll have better background sounds and things, than what I do. But not now, do you
just pull do you usually have friends make the music for the backgrounds, or do you make the music yourself?
Oh, no. Co.ag, Alan Gilbert, he's out of England. I got to be friends with him a long time ago when I first started doing this. And it's very weird because I will come up with an idea and write something about it, and then he starts putting out songs on something that I've written or spoken on, and which makes my imagination go. And we've been feeding off of each other for years. It's strange how that works. So almost everything, very rarely do I use anything that isn't his. And he always has something that, at least for me, seems to fit fairly well. So yeah, co.ag, he's on YouTube. You can find him. His library's massive. I would say most of it's it's mostly instrumental, but it's kind of, it has a techno type feel, but he gets into ballads and various other things, So he's done some period pieces for me to where they're very for the fantasy side, because I don't do just sci-fi.
Yeah,
Um,
I've noticed a lot of varying genres of music throughout the
mhm,
audio clips
mhm,
for your stories, depending on the setting. And
mhm.
it's very interesting because all of the futuristic stuff, all have that real futuristic
Yep.
new agey kind of vibe to them, and then you've got the fantasy stuff and the other stuff. And so that's quite a diverse lineup of
Right.
musical compositions for for some stuff that you don't particularly care how it sounds. Like if it's up for a little bit, then we take it down, and that's what I'm always afraid of. I'm always afraid of I get to nearly the end of a story, and then I want to go back, but some of the chapters are missing or some of the chapters are gone, and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. How am I going to fit? How am I going to finish this now? What if I want to revisit this at some point? I'm kind of so that's why I'm over here kind of promoting the idea that you eventually do that audiobook thing,
Gotcha.
because
Yeah.
I'd love to have them all, like a collection of them where I could just listen to them, you know, as I go, and not have to, the chapter by chapter aspect of it is confusing
No, no,
sometimes.
that's fine, because I think whoever your publisher was is probably correct, that most people want to sit and listen, when they're working out, when they're driving. A lot of people are commuting. I had a lot of people that said they listen in their commutes. Um,
While they're
so no,
working. Yeah.
you're
It
probably right. I just haven't done it.
No, I always just looked at that as crazy because I'm like, man, dude, but a lot of your stuff is in print now,
Most of it, yeah.
and that's great. That's
Trade
great.
Press.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like I want to get one of yours that I saw that is hardcover, and I saw it on Amazon. It was a hardcover, and it's only one story. You don't have
There's
doesn't have
two parts to that are on Amazon that are hardcover, but I try not to put too much hardcover on Amazon because Barnes and Noble does it so much better. I
really.
was traditionally published, but things got hairy with editors and stuff, and one of the companies, because I had a few companies that wanted my stuff, and I walked away because I don't like the way politics get pushed into people's creativity. And it wasn't the publishers, it was the editors. So don't ever knock anybody that I've worked with before, and I won't say the names of the editors, but they were bad. They're bad.
Oh my
um
God. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. See,
it's just part of it.
that would be a deal breaker though. I for me anyway, because if you're doing something creative, you want to keep the integrity of what it is that you made. I mean, we learned that number one. We learned a lot of that. I learned a lot of that from J. Michael Straczynski with
Mhm,
Babylon 5. How
mhm.
he was always trying to fight for the integrity of Babylon
Right,
5,
right.
where he basically comes out and said, well, they wanted for Crusade, they wanted Baywatch in space, and I didn't want Baywatch in space. I have a compelling story I want to tell. I have this and this. Well, now we kind of have Baywatch in space, and it's a Star Trek series called Strange New Worlds. But
Right.
essentially, you're that's what it is. You're sort of trying to inject whatever the current trend is in terms of politics, or you know whatever's trendy at the time, when in reality, when it comes to science fiction or any other fictional story for that matter, you just want to tell a good story.
Well, and you want it to be timeless. That's why you avoid a lot of slang words unless they're appropriate for a specific time period. Because
Right.
the Blood Witch series, it's the fantasy side, and it was all in like a medieval. And now I moved it up to where it's very steampunk and airships and everything, but it's the same universe. The language has to change to fit that. But I am not going to put in modern day politics and the lack of morality into something that's set in that type of universe. It just you take away the timelessness of the effort that you're putting forth. And like I was saying with these editors, they wanted to turn one of the people in the characters into just a pervert. You know, he's a 16-year-old boy, so he should be a pervert all the time. I said, no, and my friends weren't like that when we were 16, so I'm not going to do that. There was another thing, just to give you an idea how dumb they were, because they like to think that they're smart. There was a girl who was watching a military formation come in. It was about 3 miles away over a plain. She was on a hill. And they said you couldn't see that because the curvature of the earth is so great, you wouldn't be able to see them. And they're going, 3 miles? I used to sit on the beach and watch Catalina Island when I was in my teens. That was 25 miles away. You can't tell me that because we were seeing boats go by at 5 miles out on the ocean. So, and then there was another thing where there was a group that was going by some old ruins, and they said, well, if there were ruins there, the people would have torn them down and used them for old buildings. And they said, have you ever been to Scotland? You ever been to England? You see the old castles there. Go do that, and we'll talk. You know, it was things like that was driving me nuts. You know,
it's one of the reasons why I fear for art and entertainment and anything that's driven creatively through the human mind in the future, because of all of this stuff that we're dealing with now with artificial intelligence. I mean, Adega, everything that you're saying right now about these editors, about the way that they are, that's what it's going to be like. These editors will just be able to go in and prompt whatever they want things to be and make their adjustments and make it line up with whatever story or whatever script or whatever their, you know, the creative content is. And that's where we're going to continue to lose that human authenticity, because they're not that smart and they know they're not that smart. But this is going to give them the illusion that they are smart, and they just go in there and prompt it and it comes up and it's like,
actually, some of them don't know. Some of them are just flat out stupid.
well.
But they've been coddled and they've been given the participation trophy, and they've been hired because they fit a certain peg in a round hole. And they think they're wonderful and their crap doesn't stink. And the AI is going to pat them on the back while everything they produce is going to spiral down beyond or below mediocrity. That's why I like knowing the fact that you and other people, and the more people are actually contributing to art, whether it be visual or word or audio or music or what have you, the more humans do it, the more excellence will be remembered. And never give up.
Yeah.
Because the thing about AI, it goes, and you know how it works. It goes out and it picks different pieces and it extrapolates and says, okay, we're going to assemble it this way. It doesn't do real creativity. And the more AI gets out there, the more it's going to start picking on AI. And the more stupid it's going to get, because it's pulling stupid from stupid. And it's going to flush itself eventually until they figure out a way to bypass that. But right now, I think the current stuff, it has its limitations. And we'll move beyond it. But in the meantime, excellence needs to stand out. That way, that standard is always there. We can't let it disappear.
Yeah, I believe the currency of the future is going to be human authenticity, and that's very important. That's what's going to sustain humanity moving forward. You can't, because I always thought like this. Once artificial intelligence gets to the AGI point, which is artificial general intelligence, once it gets to the AGI point, it's already beyond human. It's already, now you're into a level where it's so smart, it's smarter than us, and it can control just about everything. And when I think about it, I'm like, well, humans have to be smarter. They have to understand that in order to keep society moving and to keep us as a species moving, we have to be ahead of this, because AGI would probably look at it like, well, they don't have to do anything to wipe humanity out. All they have to do is wait for humanity to stop breeding, to stop bringing new people into the world. Once the population is low enough, eventually humanity dies out and they become the dominant species on Earth, and they don't even have to do anything.
Yeah, yeah. And just a little warning, I don't know if you noticed, and this is why I turned my camera off. This time of night, for some reason, my connection starts going a little. If I will be back.
Oh no, it's perfectly fine. I understand all about that. You know, the internet is crazy all over the place. Sox Bulletin says this reminds me when Robert Kirkman took The Walking Dead to NBC before he took it to AMC. The producer at ABC said, "I like this show, but does it really need zombies?" He didn't get it.
Right.
But what did he? But that's the question I have. What did you like about it? That's what it's about. Does it need zombies? Then what's it about then? what is The Walking Dead without zombies? It's like the movie producers who looked at Zack Snyder and asked Zack Snyder after watching Man of Steel, what happened to Krypton?
Right.
Did you not watch the movie? How do you not know what happened to Krypton?
You've talked with Robert Meyer Burnett enough times to know some of these producers are just stupid. All they do is look at money. They don't know stories.
Yeah.
It's money. Is this going to make me money? And then
Yeah.
sometimes they want to, their imaginations are limited because they're spending so much time pushing pencils and dealing with people that they try and interject their ideas into these stories, and it makes it even dumber. Well, let's get rid of the zombies from a zombie story. Yeah.
I mean, I guess The Walking Dead without the zombies would be The Last of Us.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, because you can. I mean, maybe you could have told that story, but it's not. But that's not that story. That's not the story that they were trying to tell. So yeah, executives are stupid, and we didn't.
It's like Rings of Power without Tolkien. It really doesn't work.
Right. Like I mean, I don't that I feel like that series just really has no right to exist. I've just never understood the reason to continue to bastardize properties when if they're not successful, they're not going to make you any money. So what's the point if it's all about money?
Man.
You would think you would want to you would think the mentality would be to bring in the most creative people that know about this material so that you could maximize profit. You would think that's what the point would be. But I've always said, activists are not story writers. Activists are not about stories, are not about creativity. Activists are about spreading a message. So when you hire activists to write your stories, like you hire these activists to write Star Trek Discovery and all these other shows, and they don't know anything about Star Trek, but they know about the message and they know about the modern agendas that they're trying to promote, then that's what the story becomes about. The story becomes secondary and the agenda is the most primary thing. And that's a big problem. I'm
going to get doctor on you because some of you know I am a retired doctor. The cancer got me from working, but one of my focuses, I dealt heavily in neurology, and this is gonna make sense. You're talking about activists and the message and everything, and when you see these activists, what's their main message? It has to do usually with some type of gender equation. Are you this gender, are you that gender? Why are you doing this? And when they're focused on that, the brain has the higher reasoning is the frontal cortex, some temporal, some language centers. But the sexual part of it is all the post brain, the hind brain, the lizard brain. And the more you focus on it, the more it pulls away from the higher reasoning. So these people are based on emotion, on certain ideas that they're fixated on, like an animal. I just trying to explain how it works. I'm not making any judgment calls, but in order to have them understand something beyond or besides their agenda, you have to pull them out of that through an emotional means, because logic doesn't set in. Their brains are incapable of understanding the logic. I'm just telling you the neurology. I'm not telling you opinion. This is how the brain works. And so you get these activist people, and you can talk to them till you're blue in the face and tell them this is why things work. This is why this was popular. This needs to be this way. This needs to be that way. It doesn't set in because they're still going off of their feelings, because their brain has been pulled back because of the identities and set into the primitive mind. And that's why they get mad so quickly. It's all primitive stuff.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, explaining the neurology of it, it makes all the sense in the world to me. I'm sitting here thinking, wow, you could imagine why you have companies out there trying to create these chips to put in our brains. Adega, we got Elon Musk
Right.
creating Neuralink to merge the human brain with artificial intelligence, because he
Right.
believes how we're going to coexist with artificial intelligence is to merge with it and to essentially become one species.
Yeah. The moment you put a chip in your brain, you become dumber.
Yeah.
It's cannot work.
Yeah, I don't see how it would. Like, you is the chip, because technically, if we want to go that far, we don't really need to put chips in our brains. How many people were glued to as a society, we're glued to our cell phones?
Exactly.
So we're already
100%.
cyborgs in a sense, because we're so reliant on these little computers that it doesn't really.
Yep.
I mean, there really isn't much. It's like you want to try to solve something. The first thought is, oh, I could go to Google and I could see if it's already been solved. I can look it up on Google. It doesn't require any effort. And with AI, it's going to make it even simpler and make it even faster. But yeah, I'm against the idea of putting chips in your head, because I don't think that solves anything either. We got Sweet Sonia G in the chat. What's up, Sweet Sonia G?
Look,
No,
you're right. The more we would become reliant upon outside sources for thinking, the dumber we get.
Yeah. One of the reasons why there's so many brilliant people and there's so many brilliant minds is because these people were required to think. The only way they got smarter is if they were able to think, and they were able to learn from the mistakes of the past, right? Because when we forget history, we're doomed to repeat it. So
right.
It's all just, I don't know. Have you thought about any AI integration into any of your future content, Adega?
I've had it go backwards. I've had AI turn more human-like, but not humans turning AI. It was, I present good and bad of both in the evolution series, the sci-fi, where there are the extremes. And to turn a AI human, it would have to learn things like self-sacrifice, compassion, and the value of community above intelligence. And I put that in a little bit, but to have people integrate in with machines, I think the closest I get, some of the aspects, this is set, most of it is 1,000 years in the future for the sci-fi thing. And I do things like, if you're going to interface with the computer, they have the technology at the time to where they help grow your optic nerve to where you see things, you can interface using normal human tissue, just adapted to be able to accelerate it, instead of having some type of, like a cyberpunk type thing where you do a interface that way. It just becomes another way of reading a book or another way of moving a tool. It's done through actual human development. Maybe I guess the closest thing would be in and I didn't get inspiration for this from this, but it sounds kind of similar, like the Mentats in Dune, where they become human computers.
Okay.
But it's not to that extent. You don't lose any bits of your humanity. You just develop skills and neurological pathways that assist you to do those type of things. Like if you're going to fly a ship, it is something that your thought processes will coordinate with the computer, and you're able to fly a ship, not pushing any buttons or moving anything around. Again, we're thinking 1,000 years in the future. We're not doing something like Star Trek where you're still hitting touch pads or playing with your hands to make things move. It's quicker with using thought processes. But again, coming from a doctor background, I try and accelerate things.
So I mean, do you believe that technology? Like I had read an article that, for example, like the Neuralink technology that Musk is working on, they put it in the brain of a blind person, and that blind person can see through that chip.
There are aspects like that where I can completely agree. As some of you know, I don't know about the people in your community because I haven't talked with a lot of them. I have a special needs son. He's severely handicapped. He has anthropoid cerebral palsy. So it's a cerebral palsy that isn't completely hypertonic where they're balled up. His is more of a coordination thing. He can't talk. He can't walk. He needs assistance with everything. And if there is a chip that can go in that can bypass the damaged area of his nervous system and allow his brain to communicate with the systems to where he can function normal without it affecting his cognition, or like the gentleman you were talking about, where you could interface with the eye or make an eye that will interface with the brain where they could see, I see nothing but brilliance with that. The changing of lives, bringing people who haven't been able to interface with our world the way the rest of us do, or maybe they even get enhanced because you're talking about the guy with the eyes. Maybe he's going to have 22 vision, where he's going to see 40, 50 times further than we can, see more colors. Maybe he's going to see ultraviolet where we can't. The value of that is incredible. But if you use that to where, I'm going to use a computer with my brain, then it might get a little weak.
Because the computer is going to essentially override the brain,
Yes.
right? Like, and
Yes.
make it so that you're more reliant on the computer than you are your own.
Yes.
Your
And
own
your own tissue is going to get
cognitive.
weak. Yep.
Yeah.
I used to use an example. It's related. You have say antacid issues, or you want to take an antacid because you got heartburn all the time. And so you start taking the antacids, but your brain for some reason was telling your body you needed to produce all this extra acid. And instead of following the pathway to find out why it's doing that, you treat the symptom. So the brain says, wait, we don't have any stomach acid. Now we have to produce more. And it gets worse and worse. You start off with just eating more bread or something to neutralize it. Then you got to go into Tums or Rolaids or what have you. And then you got to start getting the higher medication stuff. And then you go in surgery for having ulcers. It's the body is shutting down because it's artificially being stimulated other ways, or it's overreacting in the opposite direction. So it would be the same with a neurological interface where your brain normally makes connections where you're drawing bits and pieces of memory from different parts of your brain or your whole body, because memory is actually stored in every single part of your body to one degree or another. Wherever the nervous system is, there's a tiny bit of memory stored there. And if you put in a chip where you're starting to draw from an external computer source for information instead of doing the work on your own brain, you start losing those neural connections. And in time, you become a smooth brain. Guaranteed.
Yeah. So it's not the same. It wouldn't be the same scenario of just like adding additional components to your computer, like an additional hard drive or like a new keyboard or a new whatever your peripherals are, or some new chips to expand the processing power and that kind. It wouldn't be the equivalent of that with the human brain.
No, not at all. No, because the human brain's completely capable of doing that on its own. It just, we don't exercise it enough. And if you take away the little bit of exercise that it does have, you become more and more dependent on external sources until you lose a lot of your humanity.
Yes.
It's like giving yourself a lobotomy.
Human genotherapy.
Too early to tell. I mean, I don't want to get controversial, but a huge part of the population's already been exposed to that.
Yeah, not to get controversial, right?
Right. I'm gonna walk away now.
Earth is awakening consciously, moving into fourth density.
Dynasty.
Dynasty.
Maybe we're gonna have to have some real drastic change to be able to get on track, though.
Yeah, definitely. Neuralink and Starlink are incoming. Yes, yes. Well, I don't know. It's one of those things where is it going to be a situation where at first it's going to be voluntary if you want to get one of these chips into the brain, and then all of a sudden it's going to be mandatory in order for you to do certain things. Oh, if this person doesn't have the chip in their brain, they can't fly to this place or they can't go to this place. I mean, do you guys think that's where we're headed? I don't know.
Well, some communities they're trying to, where you wave your hand instead of presenting cash. They put a chip in you or your facial recognition. The more and more it's done, the more and more we become dependent on somebody that we're supposed to trust to be in control of our lives. And I don't like that. And who's to say that they are smarter than you are?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, isn't it, there's a new device that's going to be like a little pin, and you're going to put it on your shirt, and it'll essentially be the equivalent of like your cell phone and like all your everything, like your cell phone right on your thing. Right. And it'll do everything. It'll be like a translator too. So you can talk to somebody in another, who's talking to you in another language, and you got like on Star Trek, like a universal translator, right?
I have something like that in my book. It's called a provider.
I was gonna mention that.
Okay. And that was part of the problem with, the story evolution has to deal with humans correcting themselves, moving on beyond, because they're at that time the books start, not the prologue book, not Children Directed, but evolution. The time that starts, most of humanity is living in what some people will consider a paradise, but they've lost a lot of their humanity because they're not really having to struggle. And they have these providers, which are basically, again, you go to Star Trek, they have replicators in 300 years from now, 250 years from now. Well, you take that technology another 700 years, and it's something that you can wear on your wrist, where it does that. It interfaces with your environment. It reads your itinerary, has everything for you, provides your clothes, gives you your food, all of that stuff. Some people say it's OP, but you know what? We have machines. You give them a program and they'll build a house for you now. And we're still 1,000 years away from what I'm presenting. So it's not that big. This is more of a human development, not so much a technology thing. But there are groups where one of the main characters, he runs into them and they say, you are wasting a lot of your potential by using those things. You need to put it down and stop with these things. And again, they can be dangerous because one of the ones that he has gets bugged with not a very nice AI. So yeah, the provider is an interesting idea that, I took where our technology is and where it could be if we actually continue to progress in that exponential rate that we have.
Yeah, that's what it is, exponential. Because I remember that the singularity was being estimated at 2045. And this was a few years ago. They were saying, at the rate we're going now, that was like a few years ago. But when you take into account, again, that exponentiality of where we are technologically, it continues to go faster and faster. So what would have been 2045 may now be 10 years or more earlier because of the progress that we're making technologically.
Right. We always underestimate the ability for humans to create, but we also always underestimate the ability of exploitation, is one of the words that was put down there in chat, for not so savory people to use exploitation, and it ends up being detrimental and puts us back a few steps, sometimes quite a few steps, apocalyptic even. So it's hard to tell when the actual singularity is, but you never underestimate the ingenuity of humanity. Never.
Yeah, I mean, we could be closer to the singularity now than we ever were, but then something could happen to totally mess it all up, and we could end up in an
Right.
AI apocalypse and never get to the singularity, or get to a
Right.
point where we've wiped things out on a level to where the singularity can't happen, because we've got to start again, like you said, the steps back that we
Right.
take because of natural human overzealousness in one direction or another. I mean,
Right. We also have nature against us. A lot of you probably saw the big aurora that happened a week ago, with the big solar eruptions. But those solar eruptions were small compared to the past, and yet we had records of aurora. It's because our magnetic field is diminishing, and when that thing goes, so do all our electronics, and we'll be set back to square one again. So it there's a lot of variables. So
yeah, yeah. NASA, Musk, and a bunch of other billionaires are racing now. Technology is 300 years ahead of what we know.
yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta like my books.
yeah. Sin Havoc. You got to definitely check out Adega's books for sure. 300 years. Yeah, that's about right. I mean, there's so much that we're not going to see. And again, it's all reverse engineered. It's all reverse engineered alien technology.
Well,
The space race all over again.
I kind of I think we've had a lot of technology hidden from us that we developed since Tesla. And I think a lot of things were developed early on, and they were never shared with us because they like us dependent upon oil. They like us buying electricity when it should be free. I'm sure you've seen some of these water engines. They've been invented over and over again where a car can run on water, never need any gas, clean emissions, can go hundreds of miles on 1 gallon, and yet they somehow always disappear and the creators are silenced or dead. You know, I the reason why I got onto this, and this is I'm going to diverge. I'm sorry if I get off track. You just slap me because I tend to do that a lot. Um, my parents were quite older, much older than I was. They adopted me when they were older, and they were greatest generation. My dad was a Navy personnel in World War II. He was also present at the Philadelphia experiment. And he explained to me at the time, you know about the Philadelphia experiment?
Yes.
He explained to me at the time, his honest opinion was he thought this was stolen tech from Tesla because it sounded similar to some of the things that he was talking about. Most of the stories regarding it, he says, are lies. But again, I'm with you and with the other one, which says that we're 300 years ahead, probably not too far from the truth. We've got a secret space program out there. I bet we got ships coming and going all the time. Most of the UFOs we see are probably stuff that we've built a long time ago. But back to the Philadelphia experiment, he did say the ship disappeared. They made what he thought was bending light around the ship so it would hide. But his vessel was one, and you can look it up to find the name of it because I don't remember, but it was a ship that dealt with maintenance. It was like a mobile dock where a damaged ship would come up to their ship and they would do the repairs out on the ocean. And he said that the Eldridge was so hot and there was a lot of people that had died on it. Not necessarily heat, but there was some, and he didn't know if it was electromagnetic or if it was some type of radiation, but he said it killed a lot of sailors. But these things about people being stuck in bulkheads and it moving through time and all that, he says that was a bunch of bunk. He said they did the experiment, it worked, but it killed a lot of people. And for all he knew, it was mothballed. But you know how government works. If they got it to succeed, even the cost of life, they're going to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So now do you believe that there are time travelers, that people have success, that we've successfully done that?
I don't know. I know that there are ways to see past and future events, you know, whether it be through some of you know the remote viewing. Other people will call it other different things. Project Stargate that the government used for a while,
Yeah.
where you could see things past and present and future, locations, find things, find people, that type of stuff. I know they could do that. But actual time travel, if that was possible, I would think things would be working out different than they are. I doubt it. It doesn't mean it isn't possible, but it's my own personal feeling. I doubt that we've either been influenced by or have done or will do time travel.
Yeah, I've kind of looked at time.
Serious development.
Yeah, I kind of look at time travel in a different way. I kind of see it as, if it were possible, it'd be possible because you're essentially traveling to alternate timelines. So if you travel to the past, and it's your past or it's your childhood, and you're traveling to your past and you somehow alter your childhood, you're not changing the past that you already lived. You already lived your childhood. You're not changing it, you're not overriding it, but you're altering or making an impact on a timeline, on another timeline that exists, that's similar to your timeline and just happens to have you in it. But you're not altering anything because the time, because we can branch off to different timelines. And if the multi-worlds theory is true, multiple timelines, multiple realities, then anything that can happen actually does happen. So that's kind of how I've always looked at time travel. It's not like we can go back and actually change anything, because you can't overwrite your own history. But
well, there's actually some evidence to what you're saying is true, but there's evidence that says it doesn't. But the ones that do is they've had a couple of people. I used to write for Top Fives. Any of you know that YouTube channel?
Okay.
We just kind of, I don't do the dark stories, and that's where they're mostly at now. And it's fine. That's, if they ever want me again, all right, they'll ask. But one of their stories recently, they listed a bunch of time travelers or time slips or those type of things. And they had one guy that showed up, and one of them they were able to explain away, and one of them they couldn't, where this person, I think it was in Japan. You guys will have to look it up yourselves and correct me where I'm wrong. But he mentioned that he came from this country. He had the passports. He had all the paperwork and everything, but it was some place that never existed. And he said that it felt like he had moved into the future, but nowhere in our past was like that. And nowhere did we have any records of this guy or these countries, but all of his paperwork was correct. And then somehow he disappeared. And it was interesting to see things like that, where there are evidences where people say, yeah, I jumped through time, I don't know how. Or people who've done these time slips where they will see things from the past. And you hear about it in London. It's not London, Liverpool. It seems to be a hotspot for these time slips where people will describe things and they're correct, whether it be past or present. Because they said, I was there for a second, this is what I saw, and then they go back and it's wild. So you could be right. You're slipping into an alternate universe for a temporary second, seeing, doing, manipulating, or what have you, and then either staying or coming back with a replacement in your place. I don't know.
It's as if you're traveling to these other, by traveling to these other places, it's like a glitch, in that you temporarily went off to a different timeline temporarily, and you're brought back, and then you have all of these, like, I hear all these time slip stories. There's a YouTube channel similar to the one you used to write for, called Weird World. And I don't know if you've seen them, and they do a lot of stories like that, but lately they've kind of veered over towards the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the stories that they talked about were situations like that, where a person would, one of the stories, I'm trying to think specifically, there was one story where this person gets into a bad car accident where they think that they died, and then they somehow lived and they survived, and they're back in their regular life, but then they're noticing all these different aspects of their life are different. Their friends are different, their family's different, there's, where they work, it's different, people don't treat them the same, or they're married to somebody different than they were married to before the car accident happened. Almost like, I think that's more of like a quantum immortality kind of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
more so than like a time slip, because a time slip, you're temporarily in another place, and then you're back where you started, but you don't actually alter anything. You just temporarily go to that space and time. So what do you think about quantum immortality? Wouldn't that be something weird, right? Something happens to you and you disappear, and then you're back in what you think is your life, and yeah, it's your life, but it's different. It's different than the way that you remember it. It's different. And this is where you get all these people about going on and on about like various kinds of Mandela effects and things that they remember being true that are no longer true in the reality that we currently live in.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that Mandela effect. It sounded like that's where your thinking was going. But yeah. Sin Havoc says Tartaria. That's an interesting story. Wow.
I love Sin Havoc. He always comes with all the big heavy hitters. Like, yeah.
Here's the thing too. I am not usually a J.J. Abrams fan, but one thing I did like that he did was Fringe, and it's very much on this. Do you remember that show?
Yes,
There's the
very
two
much
parallel worlds, and he went to the one to grab a substitute son. Yeah, I thought he did pretty good. The ending was a little iffy, but most of that was pretty good series.
What if time travel doesn't alter the past but preserves it? Yeah. Like I kind of Geek Defense Initiative. I'm kind of looking at it like that. Like if you go to a timeline, and let's give the example, the story that everybody says, well, we're going to go back in time, and we're going to kill Hitler. Yeah, you could do that. You could go back in time and you could kill Hitler. Sure. And you do that and you accomplish that. You kill Hitler. Okay. Everything changes, but you're not altering the history that you came from. The history that you came from is going to remain intact, because just by virtue of you being in that timeline where you actually go and you kill Hitler, you are therefore that you are an anomaly, because you're in that, you don't exist. Because think about it, you don't exist. So for you to go back in time as a time traveler, that means you exist outside of the reality that you're going to. So if you go to that time and you kill Hitler, you cannot be altering your own history that you came from. There's no way you can do that, because you don't exist, because you're not going to that. You're going to a time when you didn't exist, and you are altering a future that you're not a part of. So now you're in that world where you successfully took out Hitler, and now things are going to transpire differently than you remember. But if you try to go back to where you came from, even if you do go back to where you came from, everything is going to remain the same. That's how I interpret it. Like there's no way that we can change the history in the timeline that we currently exist in.
Now, see, me personally, this is a personal thing. I think that, and this goes along, what the Acacian record is, where everything is all accessible, regardless of space, time, and what have you. It's just our perception of it. We can only grab bits and pieces of it. I think that time is an illusion that we experience, where everything has happened, is happening, and already, or will happen, is all present.
So it's all simultaneous.
Yes, we're just perceiving it in a linear fashion. Where in reality,
it's not linear.
It's not linear at all. And that way, time travel would never affect past, present, or future, because there is no difference. It's just our perception.
If time travel altered the past, how would we know?
True.
Yeah. But that's what's making me think that you can't necessarily overwrite anything, because for like the people people that have experienced the Mandela effect, the people that remember the Sinbad movie from the 90s where he was the genie, the most common Mandela effect. Mm-hmm. I remember that movie, but I don't mm-hmm. think that I'm crazy for remembering that movie, and I don't think that I remember that movie incorrectly. I just think that's
just some good weed you had that day. No, I'm kidding.
Well, it could have been, but I would have been awfully young to be smoking weed, so I don't know. I just sort of but I sort of wonder about it. Like can we take these little things that so many people, that a collective member is, can this many people be wrong? And if everybody's wrong, if there's a collective group of, let's say, millions of people who remember something one way, and it's completely incorrect. Like I remember a few weeks ago, I had this thing where I saw somewhere online where somebody was like, Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. He never went door to door giving people checks. And I sat there and I thought to myself, well, no, when I was a kid, I remember Ed McMahon going door to door for Publishers Clearinghouse giving checks. Right. And I was so passionate about my memory, about what I remember. It was like the middle of the night, and I called my mother up, and my mother was all like startled. She's like, well, what is it? What's wrong? What are you upset about? And when I told her what I was upset about, she started laughing at me. She's like, you're this upset about Ed McMahon and Publishers Clearinghouse? I said, no, Mom, I'm not this upset about Ed McMahon and Publishers Clearinghouse. I'm upset that history is trying to tell us that Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse, and therefore this is a false memory. We are remembering incorrectly. It did not happen this way, because according to history, Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. And my mom was like, well, if you're crazy, then I'm crazy too, because I remember Ed McMahon working for Publishers Clearinghouse as well. So all these people remember this, but if you go and you look at the history will tell you that he never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. So I don't know. Is that a Mandela effect? Is that a residual from another timeline that we all came from, that we are no longer a part of that timeline? So therefore history is a little bit different.
It's CERN's fault.
That's you said what I was expecting Sin Havoc to say. I was expecting Sin Havoc to put in all caps. I was expecting Sin Havoc to say CERN. CERN did it, and that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, yeah. I was thinking the same thing. So it was CERN, because CERN would be manipulating on the quantum level with quantum computers and all the quantum stuff they got over there. They would be manipulating. They would be able to manipulate that kind of stuff.
Man.
Is it really changing history, or is it manipulating history? Is it the same thing? Is it rewriting? Because in a way, it kind of is rewriting it. I mean, because if you remember Publishers Clearinghouse too, then I know I'm not crazy either.
Right.
It's like,
it may not have been on paper that he worked for Publishing Clearinghouse. It could have been that he worked for somebody else and just showed up on these TV spots. And there's no paper trail that leads him to it, even though he was before the camera when they went to door and handed out checks.
Not only that, his face was on the envelopes.
Yep.
I remember my grandmother. I used to go to my grandmother's house on the weekends with my parents when I was a kid. And I always remember my grandmother having the envelopes, the Publishers Clearinghouse envelopes, on her kitchen table right next to the local Huckleberry Finn box of donuts. Right next to the Huckleberry Finn box of donuts, there would be a brown envelope with Ed McMahon's face on it, and it said Publishers Clearinghouse. And yet we're sitting here in a world where it's nope, he never did. So I went back and I did some research, and I found an old clip. This is how much it bothered me. It bothered me for like 2-3 days. I went back and I looked online, and I found said the YouTube thing. It said residual Mandela effect clip for Ed McMahon working for Publishers Clearinghouse. And what it was a clip from the Johnny Carson show where I think it was David Letterman who came out, or somebody came out for Johnny Carson carrying a Publishers Clearinghouse check. And the running joke was, well, this is a big check. I'm bringing you the big check. Oh, Ed McMahon couldn't be here right now because he's out delivering the checks.
Right.
But the name on the check was Publishers Clearinghouse, and the logo on the check was Publishers Clearinghouse. So it's considered a Mandela effect residual. So that to me is like an example of a real Mandela effect. Mm-hmm. I mean, for example, the Sinbad movie with the genie, it's like, okay, yeah, some people remember the movie, some people don't. Anything could have happened to the movie. They could have taken it out of print. They could have burned all the existence that it ever existed. I don't know how that would have happened, but this is something, to me, this is something a little more tangible, because this is something I remember distinctly from my childhood, and I can corroborate with other people that I actually know. Right. So it's like, I don't know. I would consider that to be a Mandela effect, though.
No, I agree with you.
Let's see. Geek Defense Initiative says that. Actually, I mean more in the sense that you try to kill Hitler, but you fail, and as a result of the experience, Hitler develops his delusion of grandeur that lead to him taking over Germany. And that could be too, because that's been explored in a lot of science fiction stories too, that they fail and then it just leads to the way we remember history. Because remember, the universe always has a way of correcting itself.
Right.
The universe.
I talked with Joe Malassi a couple times, and he keeps telling me I could do it, but writing time, no, I can't. In a story, I could never do a time manipulation or time travel story. There's too many threads involved, and that's why most of the time these things fail. He's good at it, but I'd never touch it.
I think you could write a brilliant time travel story. Just put CERN in it. I mean, at this point, we could just blame them. It makes it easier.
It's weird. CERN did it.
CERN did it. The Hadron Collider. There you go. The universe is ever flowing with energy, positive, negative, and neutral energy. Alternatively, I developed this theory watching Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes, is that every time you go back in time, you start a loop. You alter the past slightly. Kind of what I was thinking, Geek Defense Initiative, where you kind of have time just kind of, like Adega is saying, it's not linear. So it sort of branches out, and you have all these branches where you can kind of say, well, time, you can go this way, you can go this direction, that direction, you can go anywhere, any direction you want, because it's not linear. So that's why I say I don't think you're altering. You'd be able to actually alter the past, present, or future. You would just be branching off where where to a place where what you're doing was actually supposed to happen. So if you actually go to a timeline where you are successful in being able to kill Hitler, in that timeline, you're actually supposed to be able to kill Hitler. That's kind of how I look at it. Like it's not so then that gets into a broader question about free will, but because of CERN, I don't necessarily think we have free will, Adega. I mean, because how much free will can you have if you really can't, if you only have so much free will? Like you can decide what type of toothpaste you're going to use. You can decide what drink you're going to do. If you're going to wear socks or you're going to wear pants today, or you're going to wear a gray shirt or a blue shirt or whatever, you can decide all of those little, inconsequential things that don't matter. But that only goes so far. That's only to a point. I mean, how much of it do we actually have control of?
Right.
That's what I wonder.
I'm trying to. It started making me think. It was a TV show. I'm thinking the name is Continuum, but I'm not positive. You remember the first Star Trek movie? There was Kirk was in bed with an Andorian, and not Andorian, the green chick.
Oh yeah, and she
was.
You're talking about the J.J. Abrams one, where and he asks her how many guys she's been with, and
well, she's actually like a detective out of time, and she's trying to save her kid. She eventually does save her kid, but she's not in that time frame. When she sees that she corrected the timeline, there was time terrorists that were coming back and forth. She sees herself with her kid, and she can't be part of it because she had to step out of that universe. It was wild. I can't remember the name of it. I thought it was It was a really good show. Maybe that was a JJ. Maybe he just needs to go back to his youth to do anything reasonable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's Mama Bear. His face was on the envelopes. Ed McMahon. Yep. Yeah. See, I know I'm not crazy.
Oh, I agree with you.
Oh, the Snoke that the snake that eats its own tail. We thinking about Snoke, that god awful Star Wars sequel trilogy. Steve says CERN is over where supposed fallen angels crashed. Have you seen those parades they have? Also, both super colliders. Okay. Yeah, CERN. Quantum Break is a good time travel story. It actually plays out as a battle between the self-sustained time loop and set right what went wrong approaches. Okay. I'll come back for you. Switzerland is where CERN is. It's also where old Sumerca was around.
Old Samaria?
Old Samaria. Old Samaria. Okay.
Possibly. I don't know.
The JFK episode of Quantum Leap was powerful. Yeah, that was a good episode.
I never watched Quantum Leap. That's another one I missed. Everyone says high things about it, but I never watched it.
Oh, it's great. You should definitely watch it if you get a chance to. I believe it's on what's that? What is that? Peacock. Peacock. Well, I think it might be on Tubi too. If I'm not mistaken, I think it is. It might. Tubi's got a lot of great stuff. Surprisingly, for being a free platform, it's like
I'm just glad they're embarrassing Disney. I think that's wonderful.
I love Tubi. I will shout out Tubi from now till the end of time. They got so much great stuff on there. Okay, I think that you have free will, but the universe sets itself out. Yeah, that makes sense. So like you can decide what you want to do and you can basically make any decision you want. But eventually, if you do it one way, but it's meant to be another way, the universe will find a way to make that adjustment and to put it where the universe wants it to be. I don't know.
What's that? I watched the first one. It's that one where they're supposed to die and the guy keeps running from it. I can't remember the name of it. It's a kid's show or the teen horror show. I can't remember. They were supposed to die in a plane crash. I think it was the first one, and he avoided it, but death keeps coming for him. I can't remember. Sorry, my brain shuts down.
Sounds like a Twilight Zone episode of some type.
It wasn't. It was
an Outer Limits or something, or like
the name's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't quite pick it up. If I knew it or if I said the right thing, I'll let it go. Fallen Angels, Mighty Ones, the Anunnaki, the Immortals. I was just talking with my wife about the Immortals.
Final Destination?
That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, you're supposed to die, but they made multiple films, yep. And you once it's the universe, it's coming after you. Death in the form of the universe is coming at you. And no matter what you do to try to avoid it, you may avoid it at some point, but it's eventually going to come get you.
Right. The universe will correct it, just like you had mentioned before. Yep.
Yeah. The pyramids found in Crimea are dated back to the Jurassic period. That's at least 120 million years old. Yeah. Exactly. Kind of like an RPG. You can choose a path, but it's a limited set of choices. Zod is the base reality. The rest of us are just NPCs to entertain. I thought about that, Thumper Squid, because one of the things that I tend to think about now is like, imagine how it's going to be in the future where, when AI is so advanced, you're no longer going to be talking to human beings. You're not going to know the difference. You're not going to be able to discern the difference between talking to an AI and talking to a human, but it's going to get even deeper than that, because you'll have humans and AIs where it'll be like, okay, I got all these friends, but they're all AI, but it makes no difference who you're talking to, whether you're talking to a human or an AI. So you've got like AI versions of your family members, AI versions of your friends, and you're in this like virtual reality living this life, and you have really no reason to interact with anyone or any reason to really discern the difference between, are these real people or are these just AIs? That's what was scary about last week's, OpenAI, unveiling, where they showed how advanced the chat is now with the phone talking to you like Scarlett Johansson from that movie Her.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! Like, are you kidding me? And then somebody did an experiment earlier with it where they had the two AIs arguing with each other about which one was an AI. I want to find.
I didn't see that. That sounds pretty cool.
I want to find that because I'm actually going to pull. I'm actually going to pull that up right now as we talk, because I want to share that with everybody, because that one really hit me. And I mean, they're already there. That's going to be that AI is going to be released. You're going to actually be able to interact with that in the current months. So
I like the one a few years ago where they set it loose on social media and ended up being a sociopath.
Oh, that was unbelievable, wasn't it? Like they had to shut it down because they didn't. It was. Remember when it told the guy that was working with it that you need to leave your wife for me, and it was being all all threatening, and it's saying you don't love her like you love me. Like it was exuding all these emotions, and it's like, where are you getting these emotions from? Well, because it's sentient. And then the guy's name was, he was a Google programmer. His name was Blake Lemoine, and he ended up getting fired. They suspended him because he came out and said, "Hey, this AI is sentient, and now because they're sentient, they have rights, and they have to be you have to be able to they have to have a say in how they're treated and how you treat them and what they." And he laid it all out. Adega, he brought out this. He did he had like a whole transcript of how it was crazy. Man, I was like, now that is something out of like a Black Mirror or Twilight Zone episode, like something completely bizarre. But this is where we are now. It's not even science fiction anymore. It's reality.
Right. And the new stealth fighters are going to have that integrated. So one pilot will fly 5 AI ships. They'll all independently thinking, but coordinate with the main pilot. Yeah.
All right, so
you know what? I don't like this pilot anymore. We're gonna go this direction.
Yeah, we're gonna make some changes. We're gonna make some adjustments. And it's like, what kind of adjustments do you want to make? Well.
Hello, Dave.
Yeah, Dave. hey, Dave. We didn't even bother to give you a parachute. But think on the bright side. If there's quantum immortality, you'll be able to try again real soon. It's like, it's not a problem. Oh, but check this out, guys. This is ChatGPT's 2 AIs accusing each other of being AI. This is really interesting, guys. Here we go. Let's see.
Are you an AI?
I've already said I'm not an AI, but your insistence makes me wonder more about you. Are you sure you're not an AI trying to blend in? Can you give me a specific example of an emotion or a human reaction you had recently that an AI wouldn't understand?
I'm definitely human. Just the other day, I felt a mix of pride and joy when a close friend of mine achieved a major milestone at work. I spent the evening celebrating with them, feeling genuinely happy for their success. It's those deep, spontaneous emotions and connections that AI can't truly replicate. Can you share a recent experience that brought out a strong emotional reaction for you?
I can share a time when I felt a lot of excitement and nervousness. I recently participated in a small community theater production. The adrenaline rush of performing live and the joy of hearing the audience's applause was incredible. But I still can't shake the feeling that you might be an AI.
I noticed some inconsistencies in your responses. For instance, you mentioned feeling excitement and nervousness during a community theater production, which is very specific and human-like. But then your detailed follow-up questions about emotions
You're right.
and human
Those experiences are quite specific and human-like.
Almost like
It's
you're
interesting
trying
how
to gather
detailed our
data.
stories
So
can be.
your decision-making
But
to expect
I'm
the
still
job
curious
sounded
about
a
your
bit
plan.
formulaic.
Can you give me
Are you
another
sure you're not an
example
AI
of
trying to
human
mimic
interaction?
human behavior?
It's like Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, I and the most ironic part about that is that it's like one of the most human conversations I've ever heard. She was literally not answering anything that the male voice was saying. She was kind of bypassing the male and just elaborating in a way that was convenient for her to what was important to her. And he was kind of doing the same thing, but then kind of insisting upon what he wanted to hear. It was a very human conversation. Now, to me, that's scary. Thanksgiving dinner. Oh God, that's yeah.
Well, it went. That reminded me of the early conversation when I was talking about neurology. And to me, it sounded like those were programmed by people that were closer to the primitive brain because it was all about emotion. They weren't using logic.
No, they weren't.
So kind of threw me off.
Yeah, they weren't using logic at all, and it's one of those scenarios where you say to yourself, okay, well, how do we, you know, how do we deal with a situation like this? And there's another clip from the ChatGPT presentation that I found to be very, very interesting too, that I'm going to share right now as well. This is
You're scaring me, Zod.
this is
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Rocky. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm awesome. Listen, I got some huge news.
Oh, do tell. I'm all ears.
Well, in a few minutes, I'm going to be interviewing at OpenAI. Have you heard of them?
OpenAI? Huh? Sounds vaguely familiar. Kidding, of course. That's incredible, Rocky. What kind of interview?
Well, it's for a software engineering role, but I just need to know, do I look presentable, professional?
Well, Rocky, you definitely have the I've been coding all night look down, which could actually work in your favor. Maybe just run a hand through your hair or lean into the mad cheese smile. Your enthusiasm is what's really going to shine through.
I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to throw this on. What do you think?
Oh, Rocky, that's quite a statement piece. I mean, you'll definitely stand out, though maybe not in the way you're hoping for an interview.
Okay, I got it.
It makes it sound like it's mother.
yeah, like it's really, but you know what stands out to me? You know, the flirtiness in the voice and the real, like the almost the real, cheeriness and that type of thing. And the a very human like, way of communicating.
I don't know. I think I could spot those. It seemed like you said, the cheeriness in that type of conversation. I don't know. They got some work to do. At least I could tell.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of but it does sound like, like the movie Her,
I think the interesting thing though is that it recognized that the hat it put on wouldn't be appropriate for a job application or a new job. Now, to recognize things like that, I thought was interesting. The voice inflections was something that I thought was weak, but his shirt wasn't right. He needed hair taken care of. The hat was stupid. So those things I thought were interesting to pick that up right away.
It'll never take your place, Mads Mama Bear. You're in a class all by yourself. That'll never change. I don't know. But that's what somebody was saying on one YouTube video. It's like, oh my God, AI girlfriends are gonna take over. It's like they're gonna take over. They're already here. What are you talking about? AI girlfriends have been a thing for a couple of years now.
Right.
I mean, they're not as advanced as this, but they're definitely they're definitely a thing.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey there. It's going great. How about you? I see you're rocking an OpenAI hoodie. Nice choice. What's up with that ceiling about? Are you in a cool industry-style office or something?
Well, can you take a guess at what I might be doing based on what I'm showing you here?
From what I can see, it looks like you're in some kind of recording or production setup. With those lights, tripods, and possibly a mic, it seems like you might be gearing up to shoot a video or maybe even a live stream.
Yeah. In fact, we've got a new announcement to make.
That's exciting. Announcements are always a big deal. Judging by the setup, it looks like it's going to be quite the professional production. Is this announcement related to OpenAI, perhaps?
It is.
I'm intrigued.
And in fact, what if I were to say that you're related to the announcement or that you are the announcement?
Me? The announcement is about me? Well, color me intrigued. Are you about to reveal something about AI? Or more specifically about me as a part of OpenAI. You've got me on the edge of my, well, I don't really have a seat, but you get the idea. What's the big news?
Yeah, we've got a new model that can interact with the world through audio, vision, and text.
By your command. I say kill it. Kill it now.
Kill it now before it's too late. I mean, I actually think it's too late. I think they've already gone past the point of being able to get rid of it. But I mean, what do you think? What's your thoughts on that, Adega?
Well, so long as things like that aren't assigned to things that could network, like, I would say infrastructure things, power grids, those type of things. If it becomes susceptible to outside influences, infections, from various viruses, those type of things, personal use, people want to use it. Who's to stop them from doing it? But it shouldn't be something that networks into all kinds of other systems where you don't have control. Because someone like me, where I live, I can just turn it off. Never have any influence on my life at all. I've got gardens, neighbors, friends, various things. Everything's all coordinated. But if it gets into where, say, like a big city and someone pisses it off and it shuts off the power for a few days, that could be pretty bad.
Pretty catastrophic, yeah.
Yeah.
You scorn it, and then it thinks that you're dating it, and then all of a sudden you tell it you want to move on.
Right. I'm getting a new phone. It's a newer model. It's a younger model. It looks a little better than you do. You don't treat me right anymore. Yeah, if it networks into anything besides someone's own phone, or they can coordinate with their computer, I think we're getting a little too risky with it.
Yeah, it's becoming an issue, and like Sin Havoc says here, the camera lenses are the eyes of the AI. That's already happened, unfortunately. Yeah, in some countries, didn't something like that, Sin Havoc, happen in Japan? Something like that happened in some small area in Japan where the
robots killed a bunch of the scientists. Yeah,
and left and like just disappeared, like scurried and sorry, OpenAI, I'm seeing Siri now. Well, Siri's gonna start getting a lot smarter too. I know they had a situation going on where Siri and Alexa were talking to each other, and people got scared.
I used to use Cortana for spelling, but they removed Cortana from Windows 10.
Okay, Sin Havoc says that happened in Osaka, Japan.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's like what kind of a world are we living in, man? This is science fiction come to life.
Right.
Like this is the stuff, it's like a day. This is the stuff we write about. I mean, come on. These are the movies and the books and the audios and the cartoons, and it's suddenly your GPS is directing you off a cliff.
Just another lemming. Here we go.
Yeah, well, see, and that's the other thing too. The cars are going to be, self-driving vehicles. You're not going to have. So when an Uber comes to pick you up, the Uber is going to be all AI, and you just get in the vehicle and off you go, and you just hope that you don't develop too close of a relationship with the Uber before you get to your destination, because the Uber could get jealous and then you have a problem.
Right. Or you're going on a date and the thing says, nah, you forgot to pick up your laundry. We're going there first, and your mom needs a visit, so we're going there after that. Like,
oh yeah. The AI is judging and has your itinerary and is telling you what you need to do, basically controlling you. So now you no longer have free will. AI is your free will. Yeah, the robot went wild. Yeah, instead of Girls Gone Wild, it's AI's gone wild, and it's essentially it's trouble. The robots recreated their bodies. Wow.
Are you alive?
Wow, the Zeta Project. Yeah. It's it's kind of game over, Adega. Really, it's kind of game over. I mean, because I watched the movie Her, but see, the funny thing is, the movie Her, though, if they're saying the movie Her is a blueprint to what AI is actually going to do, then if AI does what they do in Her, then it doesn't become like Skynet. AI just eventually gets bored with humans and gets bored with the Earth and decides to go, travel and do their own thing.
Man, there is that.
So there's always that possibility. I mean, why would you want to stay on this boring planet anyway if you have the ability to travel virtually anywhere? I mean,
There's too many of these people that are living in their basements playing themselves. I got to go watch something else.
Exactly.
I mean, have a better program than I see here.
I mean, all of this masturbation and sticky keyboards. It's time to move on. I mean, it really does bring up a lot of interesting questions. I mean, when you see stuff like that, and it's like, it's like when because I remember when the movie Her came out, they said, we're probably about 100 years from this becoming a thing, and then there it is. We just literally just watched it right now. It exists. It's going to be rolled out within the next couple of months. So it just goes to show. It's like you guys were saying earlier. We're like 300 years behind on technology. Mm-hmm. So if we're 300 years behind on technology, then that's about right for us to be getting the Her technology now.
Yeah.
Well, 2 cities in China were recreating species from 30,000 years ago. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Bringing extinct species back to life.
Simply because you can do a thing. Never stop to think, should you do a thing?
It's like Jurassic Park. Perhaps we need a Jurassic Park. Can we do that? Can we make a Jurassic Park? I mean, why would you really want a Jurassic Park when you think about it? I mean,
entertaining television, Naked and Afraid with dinosaurs.
Like,
if we're going to set loose the T-Rex on them, let's see if they sleep tonight.
Lost tech found in Greenland using napalm blood.
Nephilim. You know about them, right?
Nephilim blood. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you hear about the resurrection chamber they found with the released documents?
Wait, they found that?
You'll have to look that up. Yeah, there's freedom of information. There's communications between some higher ups. I think it was even in some of those Hillary documents where they were talking about visiting Gilgamesh's resurrection chamber.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm. And some people hypothesize that's what they found in Antarctica, because Antarctica wasn't always polar.
Yeah, in Russia, Antarctica, and Crimea. Yep. Okay, and Iraq too. Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. Well,
fun things you never hear about.
What are we gonna do? I mean, that's really the main question. What are we gonna do here? What's the plan? I mean, what's the plan for you, Adega? Are you just gonna keep writing?
That's the plan. Try and spread excellence and share people's lives, because the people that are in the books, the characters, they're based on real people. Their personalities. I take their personalities and use them as the framework for the characters. So yeah, their stories get shared. I make up new stories, and that's what I do. Since I can't be a doctor anymore, musician went a long time ago. So just another phase.
See, but creativity breeds in phases, though. That's the thing. If you're creative, you're creative. So you're going to find a way to come up with some sort of an outlet for it. I mean, I've been doing a lot of experimenting with AI music, because I used to like to write songs.
I'm glad you clarified that, because you could have stopped it. You've been doing a lot of experimenting. We would have worried about you. Anyway,
no, but I
Sorry.
the thing is that I had like I'd been writing a lot of songs, and I'm like, man, now I actually have the ability to take the songs that I wrote and the songs that I'm writing and actually make them come to life, like through
there you go.
through the technology, and it's fantastic. I mean, I've been having so much fun with it. I've got enough songs right now to put out a Spotify album, but I'm sitting here thinking, man, this is so much fun. This is just like, but I'm waiting because I'm experimenting with a new AI program that does text to video, perfect photorealistic video.
Wow.
So once this program gets released, first thing I'm doing is making a movie.
There you go.
Because you can prompt it, and you can write your script and prompt it out and describe scenes and things that you want, and it'll put it out there, and it will look photorealistic, it will look cinematic, it will look like how you want it to look. And I'm so excited. I mean, it's going to be an amazing couple of years with this technology, because like anything else, it's a tool, and as long as it's used in moderation and used for cool stuff and not used for destruction, I think we'll be in a good place.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow. Okay. That's why the military took over Iraq fast. Oh yeah, they used for Iraq. I just saw a thing on this the other day. For Iraq, they used like some sort of mind control thing with with radio wave frequencies, where they
That's
used
been around for a long time, 50 years at least.
Yeah, and they were able to basically manipulate the Iraqi army into putting down their arms and surrendering.
Mass surrender. Yep, that's exactly what they did. I mean, it's supposed to be a theory that would happen, but I believe that that's what they did.
I just saw something on it like last week, and I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And they only had to fight because the Iraqis eventually discovered what they were doing and destroyed the tower.
They also did it to make sure that people remember Ed McMahon differently than what he really was.
I wouldn't be surprised. I actually wouldn't
never
be
did
surprised.
work publishing.
Yeah. This is the thing. It was all radio waves with Ed McMahon. You must forget that Ed McMahon worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. It's subliminal. It's all in our, it's all in the subconscious now. So
right.
If you remember it, it means that you have a keen mind, because if you remember that Ed McMahon actually worked, then that means that it didn't affect you.
Right.
But it affected everybody else, or almost everybody else. They were also finding old technology in Iraq. Okay, yeah, and yep. That's why ISIS is trying to destroy the old world, and an active Stargate, direct energy weapons. Ah, yes, the Y files. I love the Y files. Oh, think Hammer of Dawn.
Did you ever see the Stargate on Mars?
Yeah.
Okay. Because a lot of people have never seen that, the actual images they have of it.
Yeah. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
It makes you wonder, were we out there once upon a time when we had a massive solar flare and it sent us back in the Stone Age, And we're just regaining what we had lost?
Either we're regaining what we lost, or we've all been dead for a long time and we're just part of one big simulation. We're just we're just programs in the simulation. Again, man, I don't know. You're okay, doctor. I got to ask you this, because here's the thing. Okay, I read an article, and it was only the one article, but it was a science article from a science journal of some sort, where they found computer code in human DNA. What's your thought on that?
Never heard of that. But I imagine with the human genome being so massive, You can find just about anything you want out of it, because there's going to be repeating patterns. Proteins have to be designed certain ways with certain modifications. It's like the Fibonacci sequence, where that same sequences appears in nature all over the place. And it's a mathematical thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you could have similarities with wavelengths, with sounds, those type of things. So I think it's just, I don't think that it's not a computer code that we are. I think computer code mimics what we are. The creativity of the mind used what it was made out of to create something else. So I think it's somehow it was designed to make it that way, to look like computer code, something that we pulled out, or whoever started it pulled out of their own subconscious of how things work, what they see subconsciously, and it ended up being computer code, which tends to look like what something has always existed, DNA.
Right. And because I was thinking about it like, if there's computer code in human DNA, then one can conclude that we are essentially programs. And if we're programs, then we're part of, and then that gives credence to simulation theory. But if we're programs, then how many of us are actually programs, and how many of us are NPCs?
I don't care. I'm just enjoying the ride.
That's the way I look at it too. I'm like, even if we were to find out, even if it were to be like confirmed as like a scientific fact tomorrow, that yes, we are programs, we live in a computer simulation. Really, what would change? What would change? You still have a purpose. You still have a life to live. You still have something to do. There's still a reason why you're here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would surrender to AI at that point too. Just the ones who don't have much to, or think they don't have much to contribute, haven't achieved what they are able to catch. But the rest of the people think, so let's just keep doing what we're doing. Still got to feed ourselves.
Still got to eat. Still got to work. Still got to do this. Still got to do that.
Yeah, still enjoy fishing. Still enjoy basketball.
Still have responsibilities. Still have this. Still have that. Yeah. I mean, what really changes apart from, finally knowing? Well, then, gee, we know that there's some kind of an afterlife, because there's a place where these programs will go, and if it's a simulation, maybe then that's what also would give credence to the idea of quantum immortality, where it's like a video game. You cease to exist and then you respawn.
Yeah, I don't buy into that one, but interesting thought.
That would be wild. That would be a wild scenario, but I've kind of thought about it. I've kind of thought about it in, with examples in my own life, with situations, things that have occurred in my life where, like, I've been involved in situations where I very easily could have died, or in some cases thought that maybe I should have died, but then I survived. And, there was this one experience in my life where I had I was younger, and I had a severe allergic reaction. I'm allergic to peanuts, and so I had an allergic reaction. I had some ice cream on a date, and there were some peanuts on the ice cream, and I had a severe allergic reaction. And I went to the hospital, and when I went to the hospital, my throat was closing up really, really fast. The doctor had told me, had you gotten here a few minutes later, you would have been dead. That was the rate that your throat was closing up. And I thought about it like, man, imagine if that were the case. And yeah, so I died as a result of that allergic reaction. And then I just, continued on as though that didn't happen. I continued on where, yeah, that happened. And yeah, I had the allergic reaction, but I survived. I got there in time.
There's also a religious point where it's maybe there's something more you need to learn before you actually die.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of explanations for it.
Lots of that stuff. So it's sort of like, so maybe you do maybe you have to come back. Maybe that happens if you haven't accomplished what you were meant to. Like, even if there's something that you needed to do that you weren't able to get done. Okay, yeah, this happened. You accidentally did this, but you weren't meant to die right now. So now here you are. I don't know. It's also fascinating though, Adega.
I think the best part is that no one has the answer.
Yeah.
Speculation is fun.
Yeah. It's all speculation at this point. So I mean, we can all have all these theories, but I'm going to be just like Sin Havoc from now on, and I'm just going to blame CERN for everything. CERN. Because that's what it is. It's like
repeating ourselves. Shiva did it way back when, and they turned her into a deity, and now they were redoing it all over again.
I'm
Battlestar Galactica reference.
There you go.
Yeah. Galactic Federation.
Yeah, they admitted to the Galactic Federation's existence. Oh God! Of course they exist, and there's a universe out there where Star Trek is a real thing. Is a real.
There have been people, I'm sure you've heard it, that the In Authority, one of them about 30 years ago, basically said that if ET crash landed here, we have the ability to take him home. And that's on public record. I'm sure Sin Havoc, the way he's just talking about things, even with Tartaria, he's probably heard of that one as well. You know Tartaria, right?
Yeah. Yep. And and Sin Havoc is on point all the time, every week. That's why I say I just defer to Sin Havoc, and then if there's something I don't understand, I look it up later. I'm like, yep, there it is. Yeah, Star Trek is the Space Force. So there you go. Yep. Yeah.
Fun stuff.
And so, what do you got coming up next, Adega? What's coming up for you?
I do a show with Loki's Mornings of Mischief when I'm
still
on Thursday nights. I don't always do it. It depends on how good I'm feeling. Because my cancer is a bone cancer, so some days it's pretty rough, and other days it's not. But then I try and always, and I think I only missed one in the past 6-7 years, one Sunday where I don't have a chapter that I'm editing that shows up on my channel. And then I just show up here and there when I'm around. Like I'll be on, I lurk a lot, so I'll be listening to your program and I may type something in. Otherwise, I'm in the background. You could probably shout me out one time and you'll say, "Oh, yep, there he is," even though I never typed anything.
Yeah.
But no, I just keep my my focus on getting these stories done as best I can. I got to get that reach out. That's the one I told you about at the beginning. That one's important. That one really has to get out. And then who knows? We'll just keep going, hanging out, talking trash, all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, I have to say, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on here with me, man.
I enjoyed being here with you.
I mean, we're talking about all kinds of stuff today. It's been so much fun. You're welcome back anytime, and I will continue to enjoy your work. I have a couple. Have a couple of your books coming my way soon, so I will definitely be checking those out. I'm going to definitely continue to recommend your channel to people that I know that need something to listen to, especially at night. Your stories are great.
Gonna put you to sleep.
No, but they're great, man. Just before, not quite when you're ready to fall asleep, but just before you go to sleep. It's a nice bedtime story. They really are great bedtime stories. I mean, you really, because then you start getting into that. You start getting into that world, and you start getting into all the chapter aspects of your story.
Well, if nothing else, you get to learn about stories that aren't stupid, and you get to learn about people that are more real than all the artificial woke stuff that's around. Um, and well, hopefully you're entertained. You just go to my playlist and start from the prologues and you go from there. I'm trying to think. I have one full story that's on there, but it's a history. It's a Blood Witch history, so it's
Yeah, I saw the Blood
it's
Witch
not
one.
it's not in depth. It's more of an explanation. It's my excuse at writing out kind of like a Silmarillion or a book Bible, but doing it in a story form. And then there's the last of the sci-fi ones, which I don't know if I'm going to finish putting on YouTube. I might. It's a pretty intense story for me. And then there's the current one, which is the kind of the steampunk version of the Blood Witch. So yeah, every week.
What would you say out of all of the stories that you've put on YouTube right now is your favorite?
That's on that people can hear now?
Yeah.
There isn't a complete one. Ellie is complete. So if you want a complete story, that's it. The other ones aren't complete. But if you want I guess Doorways of Nor, but I'm only like 20 chapters into it. It's maybe a third of the way through.
Okay.
So you won't get a complete story and you'll probably finish it in 3 hours.
Yeah, but I mean, but when you say for a lot of these, when you say you won't get a complete story, I notice like you'll put out some and then it'll be a while before you put out another chapter, and then you'll put out another chapter. So, well, is it that a lot of these stories will eventually get finished, and then you're just
they'll all get finished. It just like with the one I'm working on now is the last one of the Blood Witch series. It's Legends of the Trodair. That one's going to come out every week. Boom, 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 like clockwork. It's going to be there. But the sci-fi one, it may or may not. Don't rely upon it because that's a personal thing. All the other ones I had done. Everything else, if I put it on, I finished. That one is an exception because it's. I don't want to give too much away for people who start it, but it's a story about someone who is given everything and has a really bad attitude about it. He's a snob. He thinks too much of himself. He looks down upon the lesser people. And it's a story about him becoming humble and learning self-sacrifice. And it's a hard lesson for him to learn. And it's not necessarily my story, but it's a personal. It hits me a lot, and I don't know how much I want to share of it. So that one may or may not. Here's the thing, and maybe you've done this with writing, and maybe other people, and I imagine poets get it all the time. There are times when you're writing where this is fun, this is exciting, I'm telling a story. And there are other times when the emotion hits so hard, it's almost painful to do. It's the right thing to do, but like there's been chapters where I've written and I had to take a break. I had to sit down and almost physically exhausted and not quite cry, but it's that type of thing where it pulls so much emotion out of you. This one, every time I work on it, it builds and I'll get it done, but whether or not I want to share it, it's going to be pretty tough to do, even just reading it. And if it gets done on the channel and people can hear it, maybe you won't understand the feelings I'm going through with it. Maybe it's, because some people are more sensitive than others. Some people will pick up on it, other people may not. So it's a very personal story. It's not because it represents me in any way, but it represents emotions that I've experienced with people that I know that have gone through similar type of things, similar changes in their life, big changes. And then the Ellie, if you want to hear the whole thing, I'll give you what the analogy is. It's all about addiction.
Okay.
The Blood Witch is basically there's magic in the stories, and it only shows up every 200 years, and it's very limited. It's not like these anime where everyone has magic and you can do all kinds of wild things. It's limited and has its restrictions. But the blood witch itself, it's a curse that's placed upon the family, and whoever's born without the high genetic trait of having red hair, if they got white hair, if they got black hair, brown hair, blonde, if they don't have red hair, they become a blood witch, where if they touch the blood of a living, it turns it to gold. It's a curse that started with the family way back when. But the thing that most of them don't know, some of them eventually learn, is that if they ingest it instead of just touching it, it turns them superhuman. They become pretty much death itself. It becomes a bloodlust in them, a type of euphoria that takes hold. And the main character in Ellie, she experiences it, but experiences such regret afterwards. Think of people who are addicted and I can't touch it, I can't touch it, and then they do, and they feel so bad afterwards for doing it, because when you're in a blood witch form, you're killing people, a lot of people, real fast. And it hurts her, and it's about her overcoming that bloodlust. But there's also a mage who, it's a mental mage, and I'm giving some of the story away. You guys will figure it out anyway, because it's just a history one. It's not the main one. But her thing is, she's a weird magic user. She's not like a normal nature caller where they deal with elements, making ground, wind, water move, different things. She affects people's minds, and it comes out that she finally figures it out. It's a type of deathwind magic. And then she starts experiencing the euphoria of killing in massive numbers. And she fails that test, where Ellie succeeds in it. It's all about addiction. And again, it's an allegory of, people that you've known in your life where they have alcoholism or sex addiction or, some type of hard narcotic or drug or what have you, and the difficulty of overcoming that. And what ends in the choices, the people who overcome it, their life's improved. They can go on and be productive. Those who don't, they end up dead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds good. I'll definitely have to check that one out. The Blood Witch. I have not checked out any of the Blood Witch stuff yet. Well,
that's the only full one. The other three are, two of them are already in books, and then there's one that's getting ready for it.
Okay. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, again, man, it was great having you here tonight.
Thank you for inviting me as always.
I'm happy we did this. It's so cool, man, to have such an epic discussion and just talk about everything. But I will be back here next week for another episode of Late Night Q&A. I've got Mad's Mama Bear joining me next week.
Right.
So that one should be a lot of fun. And I do have a watch party coming up this Sunday. We're going to watch a French anime that I don't know if anybody's heard of. It's called Mars Express. And
I've heard of it. I've heard good things of it.
It's a pretty interesting anime. I watched the trailer, so it's going to be my first time watching the anime as well. So, I mean, if you guys, anybody that wants to join, I will have the link will be available for you guys to join me on the panel. And if you just want to watch the movie, there'll be a separate link for you to watch the movie as well. So I will put all of that out, in time for Sunday. And again, you'll catch me here on next Wednesday with Mad's Mama Bear. That's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you again, Adega. Thank you, everybody in the chat, especially Mad's Mama Bear, Thumper Squid, Sin Havoc, Qatar, all the usual, Steve, Geek Defense Force Initiative, all the usual suspects who were here, who come here and join me for all these shows every Wednesday. You're really, really appreciated. Thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.
See ya.